Welcome to the top of the world.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to Top of the World. Welcome to the river, fed by Arctic glaciers. The last of the ice and the snow has moved away, but I've got an idea. Allow me to explain. So this small sandy area here, for the last 6 or 7 years, my pontoon, you can see the shape of it, has been secured there, and the boat pontoons went out onto the river and the boats got secured to it. And that has worked really well. However, over the years, this base that was connected here has been weakened. Not really known to me, but it has been weakened, and I had to remove it all. Now, the biggest problem with this spot, it is a very, very good spot. But if there was a problem, it was that bank. She's only a small bank, and it's not really any problem for me. It's just one of those things. However, it's very difficult for the old man because his stump is always sore. It's very difficult for the elderly. It's just difficult. And it was the one place where I could put it where the boats were kept, and the old man agreed. So the old man owns all of this land along here. However, I've had to take it out because it's got to be repaired. And this is where my idea comes into. Now, the water's low, right? Because this section of the river's drained because we're waiting for the glacier floods to come from north, which will fill the river back up. But if we look along the river just there, we see where my van is. It's a much, much better place. A much better place. So let's take a little walk along there. We can't normally walk on this. This is normally covered with water permanently. You can see where the water line would be along the bank. So this is the only time of the year that you ever get to walk along here, because normally you'd be in 2 feet of water. And we can see the water line, right where the bank erosion is. And this brings me on to another point. This bit of bank erosion here, that's south. Our predominant winds are north. So this bay here is sheltered. However, last year we had a number of storms from the south, which really exposes this. Combined with that and heavy rain and the boats being sat on the pontoon full of water, it was just the last straw. The pontoon was never designed for that many boats all full of water, and a small boat full of water weighs hundreds of kilograms more than it does empty. Anyway, so we've still got this bank all the way along here, which means access down to this part of the river is just not possible. However, a few metres down, you can see there's some kind of structure leading into the water there. Well, many years ago, before this river was dammed, it was the main logging route south. So the forests here in the north were cut, and huge floating platforms were put together and floated down the river. However, as you can see, there's a bay here, and it's slack water all the time. And the idea was, behind me, was to put a sawmill here, and this structure down here was to allow the logs to be hauled out and into the sawmill. Well, then they dammed the river for hydropower, and that was the end of that plan. Wait. So here you'll see there's no bank because there's the van. Hello, buddy. So we can see where the water line is on the concrete here. So that there is the water line, which means when the river's at its right level, which it is for most of the year, you've only actually got a very small step down. There's also a metal structure there and this slab of concrete, which ain't never going to go nowhere. So my idea is to reduce the size of my landing platform, which is the platform that all the other pontoons bolt to, and position it right here. And then I've spoken to the old man and he agrees we clear some of these trees here and we open up a parking area, because this is the little track there down to the boat ramp where the boats are launched. So we can have a parking area here, so my Sarah, the old man, anybody else that's got their boat on my pontoon can park there, which doesn't block the boat ramp, and the boats will be here, and more importantly, right, easy access onto the platform. No more going up and down that big bank, which is not good for a number of people. Okay, here's my idea. We've got one long one and 3 short bits, all about the right kind of size. So my idea, yeah, it's big, it's heavy, is to build a steel frame that is welded onto those railroad steels sections and projects out and has 2 steel poles that go down into the riverbed. And then recess the timber inside the box. So the steel frame is what connects the entire pontoon back to the bank. It's also what houses the wooden decking, in order that that wooden decking can be changed out without disrupting that anchor point. Not now, after I'm dead, the wood will need changing and you can just take out the planks, put in the new ones, and then everything will be as it should be, because it will stay on the riverbank through summer and winter and get frozen in, and you know, the boards will lose their integrity in time. Okay, so this is what used to be the anchor section. That was what was on the riverbank, fixed and stayed there. And then all these sections come off of this and the float, and they make the shape that you see. The key piece, I suppose, is the piece that was ripped off, which is the front piece. And you can see the hinges, one there and one there. Well, rather than trying to fix this back onto this wooden structure, they'll be welded onto the front steel, and then all these sections will come off of that, and we won't need this large wooden platform anymore, because we're reducing the size of the platform to about what you see there, and that will be welded to that old sawmill structure. Some nice box section there that will do, and you don't really need anything as heavy as that to hold the boats in place. It's just when there's a lot of boats on the pontoon, and there can be, or there was 4 or 5 last year, and then they filled with water and the weight just destroyed everything. So this will mean that this will mean it's maintenance free, basically. Once I've welded the structure and painted it and put it out in the water and put the wood in, there's no more maintenance to it. That's it, I'm done. So I'm just trying to make it usable for everybody, especially the crips and the old, and make it maintenance free, so it's actually a lot less work for those pontoons to be put out and brought back in. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut 3 pieces like that to the same length. I've measured out this large piece of steel, which is the front. This is what the pontoons are going to be connected to. And I've marked out where they need to go. So that one's going to be welded on there, another one's going to be welded on there, another one's going to be welded on there. Just spotted a deliberate mistake. So I'm just going to go for lunch, but before I do that, because I've spotted a deliberate mistake, I'm going to remind myself and do that. So that needs to be there. Underside, and this will be over the river, and that end will be connected to the concrete. I've got it upside down because now I need to put the angle iron in, weld the angle iron along this one and this one, and I've allowed it for 2-inch timbers, 50mm. That's why this middle one is turned the other way, because it's a 50mm drop from the top, so the timber will be anchored at this end, anchored at that end, and it will set on this middle strut, and then I can just timber it out with heavy boards. Right, well that was interesting turning that over. You don't even want to know. Anyway, it's kind of there, it's a bit precarious, but the angle iron is welded underneath, and now I'm going to weld the top side, and the same with this side. And now... Right, what I was trying to do was minimise the turning of this over, because I can't do it manually now. So last night, when I finished, I painted a lot of the steel with the steel paint I've got, and then that might have worked a bit too well. Right, anyway, I'm going to have to sort that out now. And now I'm kind of ready to turn it over, finish what I've got to do on the reverse side, and start making the cleats and the legs. But the paint ain't gone off. I wonder why the paint ain't gone off. Oh, it did say on the tin that you need 20 degrees Celsius. It's not 20 degrees Celsius is what I'm saying. I've got to get those off in the right spacing and the right height, and then weld those onto the front there. So that's probably my next job. Something about like that, and their spacing and their height is critical for the next section that bolts onto that or slides into that or is attached to that. Right, I'm going to flip it over now. Now we need to do connections and legs. I've just tacked those on there for a minute. So I've cut them, I've cut the angle on them, cut them to length, levelled them all up, straightened them all up, and tacked them on there. It is a completely different day. Only the next day. Okay, so after I welded the legs on, I then made up these connection plates and drilled the holes there and there. This is what fixed it to the concrete. Okay, that is the end result. It's not quite the end result because I've obviously got some touching up of paint to do on the brackets there, and I did some more welding on that didn't fit, but that's essentially it. It has to have another coat of paint, but not until it is in situ. So now I have to measure up and go to my wood stack and get the sawmill running and make the boards for that. I like the blue. Anyway, whenever you're building a new structure, you need a foundation. Now, as luck would have it, when I come down there and measured it up, the water was up to here, right? The water line is here, right? That's the permanent water line. And if you project that along, right, the permanent water line is going to be just under those stills, and I mean just under those stills. Bottom of those stills might even sit in it. Anyway, when I come today, they've drained the river even more. You can see all the rocks and stuff. So I was able to work without being in the water at all, thankfully. Or did I know that? Well, of course I know that, because it's the same every single year. Every single year at this time, they drain the upper sections of the river between the dams to allow for the mass flow that's coming from the glaciers, right? So as they melt, as spring comes, all the snow from the mountains, it will fill each and every section up. So this will go back up. So whilst that looks to be sticking out of the water, it won't be. It will be exactly the right place. It's just where, you know, 4 feet short of water right now. So all this here, you can see where the water line was. Well, the actual water line is there. Okay, so you can see how much water's gone. It'll all come back, and that will be in the right place. cut more boards the same thickness for everything else I'm going to do around there, the stairs. So that was a good commissioning of the sawmill, good first run up for the year. Right, let's go and prepare all these boards then. Right, well I can't even believe I forgot a tripod and I've got two sat right by the door. So I've drilled that side and I've drilled that side. I'm going to screw these in from underneath. But okay, that's the bases done. So once again, the water level, the normal water level's here. Right, so I know it looks a bit weird, but you have to trust me. Right, that's the first bit done. Okay, that's the anchor point. Now we have to do some work along here to make this flat and safe, and then we're clearing this to make parking for over there. This is a good start. Right, we'll leave that today because there's rain coming now. Well, not now, but there will be rain coming, so that's that bit.